money from the public is it is from the government. Actually, what is the government wants to.
Telugu వచ్చా? Telugu వచ్చా? ఫ్రీగా అడగమ్మా, don't be afraid. Let her ask. భయపడదు. There is no wrong question, just ask freely. You are asking your brother, your father, grandfather, that's all. Go on.
Is looting public money the purpose of government? Sir, actually, what is the purpose of government, sir? Taking money.
What is the role of government?
Okay, is looting public money the purpose of government? I couldn't get your name. Manichandana. I feel so sad that Manichandana or somebody else had to even think like this, that government is looting our money. It's a sad thing, it's a fact. That's the perception of many people for good reason.
In the name of taxes, like.
And I understand. But even otherwise, they are looting. They are not. When you are not providing a service in return, it is a loot, right? A great one of the first great freedom fighters of India, Dadabhai Nauroji, he said taxation becomes constitutional brigandage. He used the expression constitutional brigandage if you are not getting something in return for the taxes. If the king collects taxes as a matter of right without providing services to you in return, it is looting. And unfortunately, if not wholly, to some extent, Indian governments across the board are behaving like that. I collect the taxes, I will not give anything in return. So, in that sense, it is a loot.
Another example, sir. Municipal tax I am paying. They are about to give me that drainage and sewage services. Why am I paying Swachh Bharat tax?
You are absolutely. I am glad. Keep asking these questions systematically and find answers and fight. That's all I am asking. And people like me can provide you more data and more logic, because what you say is true, but there is a lot more to the truth. So if you get a deeper understanding of the truth and use that power of knowledge, then change will happen. I agree with you. But let me give you some perspectives. 2-3 perspectives. Because if I give a skewed perspective, that's not good either for the country. First of all, our tax GDP ratio is very low. If we take taxation as a share of the total wealth of the country, we are at about 18-19%. We are low because we are poor. Generally, poor countries, the taxation share is lower. As you become richer, there is a higher share, because you can afford to give more. After all, in a poor country, what happens? A poor family spends most of the money only on roti, kapda, makan. So where is the government? How can the government take away more money? Then people will starve. It used to happen in the olden days. Medieval India, I take away 50% of your crop or something, you go starve if you like. But you can't do it in a modern society. You must understand. So when you say looting, while governments indeed are performing very badly in India, they are corrupt, they are dysfunctional, if you take the totality of taxes, it's not very high. And that's the way it should be. The conclusion should not be, therefore the taxes should be higher. For our level of economic development, this is about right. We must increase the cake, and then government can get the share, provided government serves you better. That is the second part of the equation. And even with the money that we are paying the government, they are serving us very badly. In 3 ways. First is bad allocation. Because government doesn't understand its purpose, the money is going into areas which are not their primary task. The second is inefficient. Even if the allocation is okay, it's done inefficiently, mindlessly. Third is phenomenal corruption, leakage. All 3 we are having in India. I can go into any sector and give you concrete and detailed examples that will take, each of these questions, if you go into depth, you can spend hours and hours. A whole course can be on these questions, I can guarantee you. But that's not our purpose. Just to give a glimpse so that you can start learning how to think. This is not about transferring knowledge. It's about removing the cobwebs of the mind, starting to, at least beginning to think. Okay? So all this happened. Now, what is the way out? We can go into many more details. What is the way out? I told you allocation. Is it the right allocation? That means first we must understand what is the purpose of government. In our country, we have no clue. Neither the people nor those in government. Those in government think that we are now the gods. We are now the kings. Somehow the vote gives us the right to become kings, but basically we are now the kings. We can do pretty much what we want. The people think these are all rascals and chore, but my bap. They are still the kings, except they come through the vote. After that, I ask them to do everything. Who does what, I don't know. Where what should happen. So, we are all together part of the mess. I'll take only a minute. Later on, you can see some of my videos, other things, where I went into greater detail, if you're interested. You need a government. Wherever you are on planet Earth, you need some structure, because the moment people who do not know each other, not members of the same family, there are no blood ties, we live together, work together, there must be a framework for our behavior. In a family, each one loves the other, you don't require extra rules, because even if sometimes we behave foolishly, ultimately the bonds of love and common purpose hold us to account. But when we don't know each other, there are no blood ties, if each of us behaves as we please, we all become beasts. So in order for us to behave as civilized human beings in a harmonious society, to protect everybody fairly, rule of law, defense, we require the government. That is obvious. Even the foolish kings did that. Even tyrannical kings did that. Nothing new about it. We are doing it badly. No, there's a lot more to it. The next level, if that only we do, it becomes like a 2,000-year-old empire. Basic infrastructure and common amenities which we individually cannot provide for ourselves. Have the definition clearly. Don't simply go by the laundry list. The first is a framework for our collective coexistence. The second is what we cannot fulfill individually, we need it, we only can do collectively, there must be a collective entity. There is no way each of us can provide water supply for ourselves. No way each of us can build a road for ourselves, or a port, or something else. Or electricity, or 10+2, that intermediate institution becomes the leader of all the primary school and secondary schools in that area, so that you can share resources, both human and material, including computers, etc. Then utilizing, luckily now we have so many open source softwares like khanacademy.org, etc. And technology now can reach more and more people, digitization, so on and so forth. So to the extent possible, make the teacher a facilitator rather than a fellow simply who keeps shouting from the desk. Each kid is different. Your principal, I think, or your dean mentioned that. Each kid is different, particularly at school level. Not every kid is the same level. Some kids grasp quickly, some others too slowly. So allow them to learn at their own pace using technology, but teacher is a facilitator, understands each kid's needs and creates a framework. And with 3D thing and with audiovisual thing, so that concepts actually are understood. Even today I am deeply disappointed that sometimes even teachers don't understand concepts. I remember in one of the best schools in Hyderabad, when my daughter came home, I was a very bad father. I never paid attention. So whenever I had time, I only used to ask her. Even today they all joke, if you had any minute's time, you will ask her a few mathematics questions. So I asked her, what are you doing in math? My daughter said, highest common factor. So I gave her a few simple questions. She committed the same error each time. Then I understood. The teacher taught her not highest common factor, but highest common prime factor. Right? 28, 42, etc. This is a common error. So I understood the problem. So I wrote a small note saying that what's the difference between highest common prime factor, highest common factor. I wrote a note to the teacher, next day sent back reply saying, sorry sir, my mistake. Another day, I remember again around the same time, I asked another question. So perimeter. I asked my daughter, how did the teacher teach you? The teacher taught her saying that you convert it into unit squares, 7 by 4, let us say, unit squares, and then count the squares in the periphery. Do you see the fallacy? What happens? You count the 7 there, you count the 7 there, you don't count the 4 there because you already counted 1, You count the 2 here, you count the 2 here. Consistent mistake. Again, I explained to the teacher, I explained to my child, of course, imagine an ant is going round, how long it will take. She grasped it in 30 seconds. I wrote a note and the teacher sent back a note saying, she's a fine teacher, well-meaning, caring, but her conceptual understanding was weak. If that is the case in one of the best schools, imagine what's happening to our kids in this country, where most teachers don't care, they get a salary, they think, hey, hamara kismat hai. So, that is not education. These can be changed easily, particularly with technology. A bit of an effort. There are so many people doing work. I myself am helping people doing outstanding work, and I'm now working very hard to try and replicate this at a mass scale. My dream is to reach not 1 million or 2 million kids, which we're already reaching, but maybe 100 million kids, 200 million kids, because technology gives you that fantastic opportunity to magnify. So it's not genius, simple, elegant things, and technology comes to our aid. Trust me, because the country is ready. And those of us who care must do it systematically. A lot of painstaking, suppose I want to create evaluation mechanisms, testing. So painstakingly create those tests, testing modules, so that the child can understand where she is. And then what are the lacunae? If the lacunae are there, then enable them for remediation. You don't have to do original work, already somebody has done. Just point out to that. So we are in a good place as a country and the world. We could not have done these things this easily 30, 20 years ago. So if you understand the problem, if you really care for the solution, now is the time to change it.
Like and subscribe Eagle Media Works.